Hi, I'm Kendall Mosier. I'm a junior at the high school as right now, Troy Buchanan. I'm in DECA. I've been doing Taekwondo. I do golf. I'm in National Honor Society. I'm in SAM, which is the tutoring club at my school. So yeah, I try to involve myself in as many different activities as I can.
Pull it a little closer. There you go. I I get that. I get that a lot. It's always funny. Someone will, oh, you have a martial arts school. Do you do anything else? And I'll be like, yeah, paint company. Oh, is that it? And then sometimes I'll tell them everything else. Well, we do part of Team USA. We travel around the world. We compete. We do that. And they're like, oh,
hmm
wow. And that was, we experienced that with you the other day at the Cottleville Rotary. When you started listing everything off, I watched eyes in the room that were like calculating hours in the day, sleep. And you'll start getting that. People, do you sleep? Tell people all the time, like, man, I sleep I have to do
hmm
all the stuff I do. So that's what's great. And it's so cool to see a young person do that. When you were younger, did you think about like, okay, when I get older, I'm going to do this and this and this. Like, I want to be did you always I always kind of look back at my own youth and I'm like, okay, what traits did I show at a younger age that showed that I wanted to do a lot of stuff when I got older? Do I have any of those? Is there anything you could think of like when you were younger that, you did it, or was it, one of those things that kind of came around as you got older?
I've always held myself to a high standard. I had an older sister who she was involved in pretty much everything I am. She was in golf, she was in DECA. So when I grew up, I kind of just figured I would do the same thing. So that kind of just led me to that. But when I was in elementary school and middle school, I look back and I didn't really do anything besides school. I was in band and choir in middle school, but that really didn't take up much time. So when I was done with school, I went to Taekwondo, but that's really all I had. So when I was in high school and I started to involve myself in all these different clubs, I just thought that was always the plan. That was always what I was going to do. This kind of stuff looks good on scholarships. It looks good for college applications. And that was kind of what I was thinking. That was my thought process. So it was always kind of a given for me. I didn't think I would, go farther in DECA as I have or things like that. But those kind of things were just the standards I knew I was going to hold myself to. I don't think in elementary school I thought it was going to be this much stuff, but I definitely thought I was going to involve myself in a few different things.
Do you enjoy the busyness?
I do. Sometimes it does get a little much with school. That's kind of the thing with school busyness. That's when it gets a little much, but all these other activities that I really enjoy, being busy is fun for me. When I enjoy it, it's fun. I enjoy it. So yeah.
That's something I always try to explain to people. And I find this with all the content I follow, with all these high functioning people that do so much. They're real estate, they're this, they're that. That is fun
hmm
to them. They enjoy it. I like to be busy. You want to see me grumpy? Find me on a Saturday when we don't have a competition and I'm just at the house. Like the other day, we went and bought a $170 Lego that's supposed to take a week to put together just because I was like, oh, me and Ben both were like, we got to do something because
hmm
we were just kind of hanging out. I don't hang out well. I just don't. And I think that's a misconception people don't understand about someone. Like if they were to hear everything you do,
hmm
oh, her parents, that's horrible to push her like that, or oh, that's terrible. Her instructor has her so busy or makes her. Some of us just like that.
hmm
Now with DECA, what is your recent achievement on DECA and what does that entail?
So I'm the District 6 Vice President. So I oversee 16 schools in the St. Louis area. So this includes Troy, the Wentzville School, St. Charles, St. Peter's, Cottleville, a little farther out, Washington Union as well. So I plan our District 6 conference, which is our big competition. I definitely have help with my advisor, so I do not plan the whole thing, but I can kind of just add my own spin on it with what I want to do. And then I also have my social media going. So I kind of just get to add that. They give us a lot of freedom to really add what we want to. And then we have our advisors who help us so much and actually achieve those things. I definitely could not do this by myself with the advisors at all, but we do get to come up with our own ideas and kind of test the waters. We get to try something new. I'm speaking at Rotary clubs and Chamber of Commerce in a few different areas. So we just kind of get to implement our own initiatives and go with those and kind of advocate for District 6. So that's my job.
When you say advisors, is that student advisors or teacher, like adult staff and advisors? Like, what do you mean by
They're
advisor?
so they're both teachers. They're
Okay.
both adults. They are teachers at different schools, but they're advisors for districts.
So they're outside of the Troy School
That's Troy.
District or someone else. So you're
Yes.
meeting new people with that
Yes.
as well, and advisors. See, that's what's so amazing is that you have people giving back and helping with that. And I know that, martial arts did good. It's obviously been a big thing for you. But since you've taken this role, like you've leveled up to a new confidence level and a new way of carrying yourself that is coming from so many outside influences.
Mhm.
And it's wild because like myself in high school, I was very shy, kept to myself. Like if someone got to talking to me, I'd talk their ear off, but I would never approach people. Even with the martial arts, like I was confident teaching classes, a lot of the same stuff you do now, but it didn't translate outside because the lessons weren't really there.
Mhm.
My instructor, Vicky, pushed things and did pull me out for that. I thank God that there's a lot of teachers that's seen something in me over the years to help with that. But know it with what you've done with DECA and what you're continuing to do. Like I am beyond thrilled of where it's going to lead. Like it's awesome because just in the couple times you've spoke already, the stuff you're learning with DECA has been great. What, for anyone that's watching, so when I was in school, we had different organizations.
Mhm.
I thought a lot of it was just popular kids that joined it. I thought it was something, there was PPI, positive peer influence. I didn't think I could be a part of any of that stuff. And I just kind of crawled into my hole, which was going to martial arts every night. That's all I did. Thank God I did because it's paid off. Maybe if I would have went a different direction, maybe I'd have learned a little bit more in school, but I feel things fell where they should. What exactly, for anyone that's watching this, because these are going to be played all over the place, you're the 10th guest. I'm hoping by the time this airs, like we're going to have a lot of subscribers, a lot of eyes on it.
Mhm.
What exactly, for anyone that doesn't know, is DECA? Like, take your time and break that down a little bit for us.
Yeah. So DECA falls under career and technical education. So this is like FFA, FBLA, those kind of organizations. It falls under the same umbrella, if you want to put it like that. But DECA specifies in business, specifically marketing. So it's called an association of marketing students. So DECA prepares students in high school or college or even at the professional level, but they already got their own thing going over there. But it prepares students for a future in the business world. So that's what DECA specifies in. We have competitions and conferences. So at our competition, every district, each state has 12, 15 districts. I'm not sure the specifics, but each state has different districts. All of those districts across the U.S. have their own district competition. If you place, you then move on to the state conference. So all 50 states have their own state conference. And then if you place at the state conference, you move on to ICDC, which is the International Career and Development Conference in Anaheim, California. So people around the U.S. and some around the world, we have some in Canada, come to ICDC and compete against each other. And then while all this is going on, each school has their own DECA chapter. So they have their own events. They have monthly meetings. They have events going on within their school, fundraisers. So there's a lot of moving parts with DECA. And then we also have our conferences. So we have our Power Trip conference, which was in Austin. And at these conferences, it's really an opportunity for students to really have fun and learn. So they always bring speakers. We do learning labs, which a lot of the time colleges come, so we get to hear from a college representative that we might go to. We were in a trip in Austin, and Missouri State University was there. So they really bring colleges from around the U.S. to come to these conferences. And then we compete. We have guest speakers. We listen to those. We do learning labs, and then we get to explore different cities and network with multiple people. So, yeah.
What do you do at the competitions? Like you say, compete.
Mm-hmm.
Is that speeches? Is that debates? What exactly goes into that?
So there's two broad categories of competition. So one of them is the decision-making events. So that's what I did last year, and I made it to states with that with one of my team members from my own chapter. So with a decision-making event, you can do it with a partner or by yourself. You get a scenario. If you do it by yourself, you get 10 minutes to come up with a solution. in that scenario is there's a problem going on with the business, there's a problem going on with their marketing campaign, they need financial assistance, something like that. We have to come up with a plan. A lot of times this includes budgets. You could draw a graph.
Wow.
You give them a graph. A lot of people cut out a little business card and they give it to their judge. So then when you come up with a solution, we write out a little plan, what we want to say, and then we go to basically an interview where we're in front of one judge. We present our plan, our budgets, all of this stuff, our graphs, whatever we want to say. They ask us a few questions, and they really score us on how we present the material. So even if your material isn't necessarily up to par, if you had good speaking skills, if you communicated clearly, if you carried yourself with professionalism, that really gets you a lot of points. And then we also have to hit those key indicators, so what they're really looking for.
That is something I wish they had like an adult version of DECA that I could like put people in, because that's such a huge skill for business that people don't realize. I think that's why the coaching world, which is where I'm directing my career right now, has gotten so big, because some people are just afraid to make that jump. And I have to say, and I attribute a lot of mine to martial arts, I'm not afraid to make those jumps. I've had a lot of people are like, well, how did you know that was right? I just knew. What do you mean you just knew? I'm like, I just knew. I have a lot of other skills. I knew I always had something to fall back on. But I find, I had a lady recently, yeah, I need your help with my business. And she laid everything out for me while I was actually bidding her house for a paint job. And I looked at her, I was like, what are you waiting on? You literally just told me every single thing you need to do other than walk out the door and do it. She's like, oh, I knew you were going to say that. I don't know. And like a couple months later, I actually heard her ask someone else the same thing, and she was just scared to jump. What was the decision making? What was your example from state? What you guys did for, like, what was your scenario, if you remember?
So I know at the district level, me and my partner had a scenario where it was a solar panel company, and they wanted to like rebrand their marketing. So we had to come up with a new slogan, something creative like that, come up with a new slogan, new brand design, something like that. We had to come up with a new slogan, and then what their plan was to kind of rebrand. So where their money would be going into for their budget and stuff like that. At our Austin conference, we had a mock competition. So this one was a restaurant who was being sued by another restaurant. Because of their slogan, they felt it was too general, and the other restaurant wanted to use it. So we had to figure out if we wanted to fight back with the lawsuit or use that money and rebrand with a new slogan and marketing campaign. So those are just two examples.
Now, so on the rebrand with the marketing campaign, okay, so you got two businesses, slogans are similar. Did they cover anything with like trademarking or any of that stuff? Like, how in depth do they go with like what you can and can't do? Do they really get down into like the legal parts of it?
So specific events, it kind of varies. So there's a financial event, which that gets all into, budgets and percents and graphs, which I don't do that because that's a lot of numbers going on there.
The part's boring.
Well, that's it.
It just takes a lot of money. That's all. Yeah.
And then there's different events. So there's more, there's events for the food service. There's events for hospitality and tourism. So it goes in depth with your specific event. So the one I did last year was business law and ethics, I believe. So that was all about is what the company is doing, are they using good ethics?
Okay.
And then what should they go? How do they appeal to their customers? That kind of thing. So it really depends on your event. But this last one at the Austin conference with the restaurants, you get to kind of choose. So the people who choose to go more in depth, we only get about 10 minutes, so you choose what to spend your time on. You could go into the legal stuff, you could go into the financial stuff, or you could go into more of the marketing stuff. So it really depends how you want to use your 10 minutes, and you get to choose how in depth you want to go.
I think that's great because it's teaching you guys creativity too with, okay, you got two slogans that are the same. What do you do? Well, the simple solution, there's two ways to do it. Well, is there trademarking involved, and do you just hire an attorney to go crush them? Depends on what your budget is and who you are, who's the bigger fish. Or do you come up with a creative rebrand, come up with a new way to attack this goal? There's a great book, Start With Why. And it's about, he does a great presentation, Simon does, on Apple, and that people started out buying Apple because of their why. It was a great phone. It felt good. It was hip. There's a million reasons why it was a great phone, but they market their why they do it. It's amazing. I'll have to send you the link. It's really, really neat. It's one of those I go back to every once in a while when I feel like things might be getting off track or I'm stressing with stuff. I go back and rewatch it. I've got his books. I've read his books. But that presentation was at a TEDx was amazing. And that creativity, I find business owners really struggle with that. That's amazing. They're teaching that to you guys. Because so many of them will do things like I'm struggling with this and this. And then when you sit down and talk to them, they made a new logo, but they shared it on Facebook. They didn't do anything else with it. Or they came up with a cool tagline, but then they don't ever say it. Ours at the school, training champions today to be the leader tomorrow. I tell it to everyone. I make sure I bring it up all the time. It's on the wall. It's on everything we post. It's successful. I find people come up with stuff like that and they don't do it. The painting company, follow the red vans. That was our tagline. I've had other businesses ask Casey, hey, Matt, think I can call Matt and he can help me with one of those? Because they're just stuck. And I sent him 4 ideas that afternoon. Immediately, he's like, how'd you do that? I'm like, well, it's not my business. I'm away from it. So it's amazing they teach you guys that stuff. That is, heck, I want to, that says for my guys, I want to join DECA. I would have so much fun doing that. I mean, that could
you would have a lot of fun.
That could be a fun board game, just coming up with that. God, you'd never get me to leave the house. I would have so much fun with that. Like, I'm just having fun talking about it.
Yeah.
That is cool that they teach you guys that because it's such an amazing skill. And it's not really I know you said it's a marketing club, but marketing's a wide term. That's just something business owners need to do and need to be able to do. Or someone in business, say you decide to be like a virtual assistant and you're helping a small business owner that's hired you, having those type of skills. Now, with the 10 minutes, how long do they give you? You may have already said this. How long do they give you to prepare? Like when they give you the problem, they present it. Here's, I guess, on a sheet of paper. Here's your problem. How long do you have to troubleshoot that design and put your plan in play?
So with an individual team decision-making event, it's 10 minutes. And then with the team decision-making event, it's 30 minutes. So with the 10-minute ones, I did one in Austin, which was individual. You don't have any time to second-guess yourself. You have to write down what you think, decide what you want to do, and you just have to go with it. That's a lot of it. You may just have to make it up as you go, but that's kind of part of it. With the team decision-making event, which I did at districts and at state with one of my other team members, you have 30 minutes and you kind of split what you want to say. I work on these 5 indicators, you work on the other 5. So it really just depends.
See, and that's great too, because that quick thinking skill. One of my instructors, Vern, we were kind of like me and you. And Vern told me a book, The 1 Minute Manager. It's a very thin book. It's a quick read, and it's basically just making the decision. Vern managed Safety Clean factories, and one of the things he told me is he's like, make the decision. Don't say, I don't know, let me think about it. Let's do this. Let me call somebody. If I don't know the answer, tell them I'm going to find the answer out and I'll get back to you. But just make the decision. And I've watched this with people I'm around. They'll struggle on things. So the other day, and this is really cool, this falls into our topic, I started to share this post. And honestly, I couldn't get it to share properly from the lady that made it. I couldn't find it on her page, and I was sharing it from like a marketing page. It's Cody Sanchez. She was on a podcast a while back. Her business is buying boring businesses. She buys plumbing companies. She buys lots of stuff. Super bright lady. Love her. You should totally follow her. She said, if you show me how someone orders their coffee, I can show you their bank account. And she goes on to elaborate about how if someone's in line and like, I don't know, maybe I want this. Oh, maybe I want that. Do I want a granola topping? Do I want this pastry? Do I want that? Maybe, I don't know. Do I want a grande? And they're going back and forth. She goes, I can show you your lack of success. And the hate in the comments. Because she said a highly effective person, if you're in line, okay, I'll just quiz you real quick because I know this. I know how you're going to answer this already. If you're in line to get a coffee, before you walk in the shop, do you think, well, I got to read the menu and figure out if I want chocolate today, or do I want sprinkles? Do I want a muffin? Or when you're in line, are you at somewhere you're comfortable with and you've got a lot going on? Do you know your order already?
Usually I look it up beforehand.
Exactly. Preparation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what I want. There was a lot of comments. She's super popular. Everybody was like, how can she assume that? What a bitch. This, and it was just all negative.
Mm-hmm.
All negative. And I'm like, no, a highly successful person. You said what I would have said. No, I'd have looked their menu up before
Yeah.
I went there, and I'd have been like, no, I want this, and I want the blueberry. We're out of blueberry. Cool, give me chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have been out of line and back to doing what I had to do. If I even went there, I probably would have made my coffee that morning because I didn't want to stand in line.
Mm-hmm.
What she was getting at is highly effective people can make decisions on the snap, especially when it's a remedial decision.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that as my businesses grew. Hey, do we want to paint this wall gray or brown? You're asking me? Brown. Why do you want it brown? You asked me gray or brown? Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I was thinking gray. I'm already moved on, and now I'm irritated that you asked me a second question because I answered you and I've moved on to my next topic. Probably one of mine and Casey's biggest fights. Well, I was thinking about and I've said brown 5 times. What are you doing? I moved on. I've advanced a year in 5 minutes because I'm done with this conversation. And that is so true of highly effective people, because you get to a level in business that you don't have time for remedial decisions. We've discussed that with katas. Should I do this or this? Do this. Cool, we do it. If the judges don't like it, we go back to the other one. Whereas other people are like, well, I was watching so-and-so and maybe they did this, or maybe we could do. Don't got time for it. Make the change, move on. If we lose, great. We're competing 1,500 times this year. We'll pick it back up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
That is such an amazing skill to teach you guys, because it is one of the most frustrating skills that I come across in life. Well, maybe I want a large shirt. No, maybe I want a medium. Do I want the gray? Do I want the blue? Maybe the blue will make me look fat. Maybe the gray, maybe that'll be too thin. Bro, you want a shirt? Here, I'll give you a shirt. Just leave me alone and give me the 3 minutes of my life back. That is, and even at my level of not even, in my opinion, being super successful, I cannot imagine what someone that's like a billionaire, how quickly they make $100 million decisions would probably make me puke. I'd probably throw up. Andy Frusciella talks all the time. He's like, dude, if I laid my stress level on any of you, you would die. Your body would just shut down and give up. Yeah. And I bet that is. So it's such an amazing skill for them to teach you guys. How, like when you're doing something like that, how do you make your decision? What's your process? What do you think? And I don't expect a perfect answer. What's your process though?
A lot of it is just the basics. I go over the basics. Yes or no. Am I going this route or this route? A or B? I pick B. Okay, so I'm sticking with that the whole time. I'm not going to change my mind. After I picked B, I'm not going to go back. I'm going to go on route B and I'm going to go where it takes me. And a lot of it is I'm talking to someone. I feel like if I'm talking to someone and, whatever they're giving back to me, I can kind of decide where I want to go. So I have kind of a backup plan. Well, if they didn't seem that interested in that, then I'm going to jump over to this topic and start talking about that. I'm going to hit all my bullet points. So there's really nothing I didn't leave out. But I can't go back and second guess myself. So that's kind of the big thing, is when you're doing these decision-making events, you can't second guess yourself. You have to pick something and go with it. So that's kind of the
You have
main
to
idea.
commit to that path.
Yes,
It's the same thing if we were doing a kata. You can't change the kata halfway through the form.
exactly.
You commit to it, you go for it. And that's exactly how I would answer that too. I would have chose A or B, and then I'm following B. I've committed to that. That's the process, and we're going to run this till it stops. That was funny the other day over the Team USA shoot when we were bickering back and forth. Stacy was like, well, what did you say? I'm like, nothing. Kendall's me. She's already checked that I didn't text out in the group. She already knows I missed it. She's put her foot in the ground on where we're at on this. I'm arguing with me here, so I'm done. I'm moving on with the fact that we're just going to agree to disagree, and I'm not going to push it anymore because I probably am wrong, because I literally was trying to go back through the message to prove you wrong, and you pulled in, and I was like, dang. She goes, what? I said, because I'm arguing with me. I know she's already double-checked it before she texted me.
Yes.
She went back and looked and then went, you didn't post it. So, because she was like, well, did you check it? I'm like, she checked it. I don't need to. She already looked it up. I've lost. I'm just going to commit to the fact I lost and move on with my night. And I was cracking up, but that's the way my brain works too. Pick and go. And again, so many grown business people, well, like, it drives me nuts. I'll watch a business owner, and any of my friends that watch this, if you've done this, it did annoy me. which logo do you guys like best?
Oh.
Which of this do you like best? And they put it on Facebook for what could be complete idiots to pick. Use your educated decision. Like, well, you've heard Casey get on the two of us about this. That you'll ask for an opinion, people will give it to you. And
I stand by that, though. I stand by that.
But you'll commit. You'll be like, okay, thank you for the input. I'm going to go this way.
I think that's how you're supposed. I stand by that too.
Everybody thinks when you ask for input, you're just going to go with what they say, and then when you're like, yeah, you kind of touched on the points I did, and that's not valid enough. I'm going to move right. That drives people up a wall. But it drives me up a wall when people put stuff out like that on social media. It's like, yes, if you're Coca-Cola, you probably send out a logo to a test group. You have billions of dollars that pour into it. But you're not just posting on your Facebook page for grandma to be like, oh, dear, I love the blue. I've never done that in my logos. I pick it. We may talk about it at the school, but I just go. You've got to be able to pull that trigger if you ever want to succeed. There are times that I've had opportunities to bid things that if I would have sat around and second guessed it, I would have lost out and not be where I am today. But I just pulled the trigger and went for it. Pretty simple solution. Not real hard. Maybe sometimes it does hurt me, but you know what? I don't remember those, so it doesn't matter. You just do it. And that's such an amazing thing that DECA is doing that with younger people. How do people get involved in DECA in school? Like, how does that work?
So at the high school level, which is probably where most of our members are, it's like any other organization. People can join. Most chapters have a fee just to cover, their DECA t-shirt, that kind of thing. But you join, and most chapters have a monthly meeting, kind of what are they doing. So at these meetings, my personal chapter, we made gingerbread houses the other day. And then a few meetings before that, we did something Halloween themed. So people just go to their DECA advisor at their school, say, hey, I want to join DECA. Okay, this is what you need to do. You need to pay $20. Okay, there you go. You attend the monthly meetings and you go from there. So it really depends. There's a collegiate DECA as well. So you could also join your collegiate DECA.
What's that mean?
DECA at college.
DECA at college. Okay,
yes.
I was just asking because I know I'm not the only person that probably thought that. If I am the only person that thought that, whatever. That's really cool. And what that it does for kids, it honestly, it hurts my soul. I did not do anything like that in school. I was so shy, but the skills that teaches for the world we're in, everybody gripes, oh, the 20-year-olds today. Dr. Penny and I just discussed this. But your guys's, and I tell them all the time, I'm like, I'm not worried about it. Why? I was like, because I work with the high school level kids right now, and there are some bright stars coming up. What you said there about speaking to them, you've went with option B, you're speaking to them, you're talking to them, and you're following which way they go, so you're judging those cues. That's God-given. That's not something you learn, and it's something I have the ability to do too with talking to customers. Great salespeople have that ability a lot of times. They know which way to direct a conversation. They know when to abort. I had a gentleman that did sales for me at Jiffy Lube, and he taught me that. I'd be like, why'd you let that guy walk away? We're supposed to talk to everybody. If they're watching it, because they'd hide and like spy on us. I'm like, dude, Todd's watching us right now, Brian. You're going to give me a lot of trouble. He's like, dude's toast. Move on. I got somebody coming in the door. Leave me alone. And I just learned to leave him alone. And I would judge that when speaking to people. It's how I'm successful bidding my jobs. I can tell when someone is just like, yeah, I just need to go paint the room because just getting it for insurance. They're going to have their buddy do it for $500, but they're just, they're getting the bids. Or when someone's actually interested, or when someone's interested in learning more about like maybe what products I use or what colors would look good in their house, and they value my opinion on it, I will take the time to speak to them. It's one of the reasons I feel the businesses have been successful. I can tell that with working with the kids or speaking to a parent about enrolling. That's not something that you learn. That's not something I could sit back. I mean, like I picked up on things and honed it in over the years, but it wasn't something I ever realized I had until I was older. It's amazing to hear you say that now and realize that you can kind of feel that because, when you're talking to jurors one day, it's going to be really important. We'll plug that in there. So that's great. So now with DECA, you do DECA, and then what was some of the other programs you do at school?
So I do National Honor Society. I'm a part of National Honor Society, and then
what's that?
So you apply for National Honor Society. At my school, when you're a sophomore, you get a little letter, and it says, "Hey, you're eligible to apply for National Honor Society." You write an essay. They read your essay, and then they send you another email or letter and say, "Hey, you've been accepted," or "Hey, I'm sorry, you haven't been accepted." So what this does is a lot of it is community service. So we have to get a certain amount of hours each semester to still be in NHS. So this could be group hours. We do a trunk or treat. The other day we did a parent sign out. So with the teachers' kids, we watch them at school, that kind of thing. And then we decorate teachers' doors for Teacher Appreciation Week, stuff like that. And then we also have to get our own service hours. So leadership hours. So at the Troy Golf Camp, I helped and I got 12 leadership hours. And then we have independent hours, which could come from different clubs, which I'm also in SAM, so I get some of those. So it really is community service. I mean, we I think there's over 24 hours required of us, probably maybe 20 per semester, around there. I think it's different for grade levels, but we do that, and then you could also be a part of the officer team, which I'm not, but they kind of plan and lead us. So
That's really cool. That
mhm.
one, that obviously takes a lot of time. Now, does
Yes.
any of these clubs that you do, is this all after school, or is some stuff like, okay, this hour is English, but I go to this class today because I'm caught up on my English? Like how much of that is your responsibility, not only like to keep up with your grades and keep up with your classes, but how much that pulls you out of class, so then you're responsible for going back and doing that?
hmm So with NHS, most of it is outside of school. We have our meetings, which are during our win time, which is ACT lab. We go to those during school, but the other, 20 hours are outside of school, which we are responsible for. We are responsible for if we have a test we need to do during win time, we have to reschedule. We have to go to the meeting. If we have a required service event and we have something else going on, we have to reschedule that other event. We have to be at our NHS event. So most of it is outside of school, and then we are also required to have a certain GPA, and our attendance has to be a certain amount. So we have to keep track of our school things, and then we also have to keep track of our, extracurriculars.
Wow. So
So,
that just compounds. But again, in business, if that's where someone wanted to go, or even if they were an entrepreneur working inside a business independently, juggling all those aspects and juggling that time management, I
hmm
find that as I deal with businesses and as mine have grown and people have reached out, hey, I got some questions. What about this? Time management's key. People always like, oh, I bet you don't sleep. I bet you don't, bet this is. I'm just really good at time management. I
hmm
can plan my day out. I know I got to be here, 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 and here. I got to have this done by a certain time. I beat myself up about it pretty hard. I noticed that about you because I used to, I would let it push me, push me, and push me until I kind of like break down a little
broke.
bit.
hmm
Yeah, you just kind of break. You hit a
hmm
point, takes you about a day, and you're back. But it's
hmm
like you get to a point where you're just like, I can't, and then your brain's like, but you want to,
Yes.
and then that's huge. And that's something that I feel that people have learned, have forgotten how to do. It's hard.
hmm
Okay, lots of things are hard. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do it.
hmm
I don't know how to process that when someone tells me that. When I have a grown adult, and I get this often, people question about business and success or different things. Isn't that hard?
hmm
And think of it that way. I thought of it as a challenge, but I didn't go, ooh, it's hard. Uh, that's just not how I work. It's a
hmm
challenge. We accept the challenge. We take the challenge. If it doesn't work, we move on.
hmm
I think that's something that's always kind of tripped people out. Like if we go to a tournament, we compete, we balk, we know we messed up.
hmm
Whatever, I got to fix this. We're mad at ourselves. We're not mad
Yes.
at the situation.
Exactly. Yes.
But then we move on. Like a few minutes later, we're good. We're back at it, whatever. Whereas
Yes.
some people, it's like that fear to fail paralyzes them.
hmm
Or once they do it, they can't do it again.
hmm
Oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Yeah, you could. I'm nothing special. You could do it.
hmm
People can do it. What if someone were to ask you? I'm going to ask you. I guess would be a better way to
Yeah.
put it. Do you ever fail?
Yes, absolutely.
What do you consider now? You said that, but I want you to think about it. What to you is failing?
I feel like it kind of depends. So with school, Recently, I had two B's going into finals. I brought them up to A's. I was going to be upset if I got those two B's. It would have been the end. It would not have been the end of the world, but there, probably would have been a few tears. Um, if I got a C, I would consider that failing. So it depends.
Did you get a C?
No, I did not.
So
I got
you did
straight
not
A's.
fail.
No.
I understand where you're going, but you did not fail. So what would you, what can you say? Can you say that you've done something that you would say is a failure?
Yes, I would say yes. I'll explain. So at the beginning of the year, I was in trigonometry. I'd always been, good at math and stuff. I lasted about 2 weeks in that class, and I had to beg the counselor to switch me out. So then I went to the class slightly below that, and now I'm in that math class. So I consider, I did not succeed in that class, so I changed to a class I would succeed in. So I would consider that failing in that
Do
case.
you truly consider that failing?
It's definitely not. I feel like there's a spectrum. I feel like it's not completely a failure.
Yes.
Because I adapted, I guess.
The current hot term is you pivoted.
I
I hate
pivoted.
to use that because everybody finds these new hot terms and they just beat them to death. I had someone recently, we were talking and I was explaining how I have processes for about everything I do and I have to really watch myself that I don't just get fully crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I pack my bag, I have this done, I have certain things done because I don't like this morning I went to go to the gym, I couldn't find my headphones.
Mm-hmm.
Ruined my whole morning. Couldn't find my headphones. And I was not mad I couldn't find headphones. I was mad because if I would have packed my bag like I always do, I would have caught that last night. I could have found them. Pretty sure they're sitting at the school.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have got my workout in. I would have been able to get done. I would have started my day better. So I was very frustrated. I have systems in place to make sure I succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Forgetting my headphones wasn't a failure. Trigonometry for you is not a failure. You adapted. Now, what a failure would have been is if you would have stayed in a class, screwed it completely up, wrote it to an F because you would have failed to adapt.
Mm-hmm.
You got in the class, you realize it's not for you, and you move to a different class that is better suited for you. So now what's your grade in that class?
I did get an A.
You have an A because you assessed, adapted, and moved.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a failure. Someone said, we were discussing my processes and all this stuff and how it can be can borderline on unhealthy. And I said, I really don't feel like mine are there. I'm not unsocial because of it. I just have to have things a certain way. It helps me. On a Sunday, I like to gas up my car. I like to have it cleaned out. I like to have certain things done going into Monday. I feel like, okay, my week is ready.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I'm going to make you fail. I'm going to push you to a limit that causes you. And it was from a place of love. It was a counselor. I said, I don't fail. I said, I'm not being arrogant. I don't fail because I recognize, adapt, and move. That's not a failure.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like going into a division at a tournament and continuing to do the same thing every time and lose. That's failing. That's because you're failing to notice the mistakes, take the coaching, take any of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really a failure. There are people that quit things all the time. That is failing. They're quitting it. They're giving up. They're not adapting and moving. They're just quitting. Well, I'm just not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're failing. I would not phrase it that way. I wouldn't quit. I've never quit anything. I've adapted and changed my direction. My businesses are growing, so I'm adapting and changing my course of business. No way would I say any of that is a failure. It's a change. Mm-hmm. It's a trajectory change. And if you talk to a lot of the very successful people, they do it all the time. They may buy a company, realize it's going to be a loser. It's not something they're interested in, and they will then sell that company, use that money, roll it into something else. It wasn't a failure.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't working out the way they wanted. I feel that fear of failure really, really throws people off. Mm-hmm. That's why I was curious on you, because I know you haven't failed at anything under my actual definition. And so I was like, I got to hear what you think failing is. I was really curious on that. That's not the same thing. Like if you're a parent and you don't visit your kids, that's a failure. There are things that make you that when you quit. As long as you adapt and move and recognize that maybe this or that is not for me, there's no harm there. There's no failure there. That's just adapting and moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that's something with what everything you're doing in school that is just compounding over and over and over again for you that is amazing. And it's exciting to see you really take to that
Hmm.
because some of the things that you've just said today from DECA and lessons that you're learning in school, so many business owners could take so much from that. That's why when you speak at these things and they're like, wow, they couldn't do it. It scares them to death. When I sat down with someone the other day and I'm like, I hired a professional speaking coach. I am getting on stage the first time in February. I've been building out this coaching platform, hired a content creating company. We, in the middle of doing that, Joey had this idea for the Lincoln County podcast. I've
Hmm.
done a couple episodes and I'm in love with it. This is a blast. And they're like, huh? And they look at Casey and they're like, oh, well, she's like, he's been researching how to interview and talk on a podcast for a year.
Hmm.
He's been following speaking coaches. I sent you that one guy,
Hmm.
like studying that stuff for a while. And people are just blown away. I'm adapting and changing trajectories by what excites me.
Hmm.
Nothing wrong with that. And it's just so good that you're getting that from your schooling.
Hmm.
Now, you said Sam's.
Yes.
What is that?
So Sam's is a tutoring club we have at our school. So during wind time, all of the Sam's club
During what
comes together.
time?
Wind time. It's
What is
ACT
that?
Lab.
What's ACT
So
Lab?
it's a free period.
Okay, free period.
It's
There you go.
time. Wind time stands for
Some of
what
us,
I need.
when we were in school,
I
didn't have
didn't
those
know.
terms. I don't know.
I
I'm
thought ACT
asking.
Lab was like a common thing. Well,
Nope.
it's wind time now.
So when I went to school there, we didn't have any of that.
Oh,
Well, I did. So partially, I went to St. Dominic. We had
I
homeroom
didn't know that.
in the morning.
That's basically kind of the same thing.
But then at Zumwalt, we did not have anything. Well, at least I didn't. I was struggling just to get out of school. I just wanted to get out of there every day and go to Taekwondo. I just did not want to be there. So ACT Lab, learning some new stuff.
Yes. So ACT Lab is like a free period. Wind time stands for what I need. So basically, everyone does homework or
What I need.
studies
That's cool. Okay.
for their next period or the next test, whatever they have. So I use that time to my full advantage, that's for sure. But in our wind time, it's a class full of all the SAMS tutors. So someone could get a call, hey, we need a tutor in Algebra 3. Okay, who wants to go tutor in Algebra 3? They send 2 kids down.
Okay, so you guys go to the classroom and work with them.
Yes, and then we also have required service hours for that as well. So we only need 3 per semester on that one. So service hours, we could help with a trunk or treat like we did for NHS. We have stay after school and tutoring, and tutor that counts, those kind of things. So
And that's something, your service hours that, you have teachers that sign off on this stuff for you?
yes, I do, and they are completely real. I do all of my service hours.
I believe you. That's great.
yes. I do all of my service hours for NHS and SAM.
So what was your other, you got NHS, DECA,
Mm-hmm.
SAM. Is it SAMs or SAMs? S or no S?
SAM.
SAM. Okay.
Yes. And then I also play golf
And you're
for
on
high
golf.
school.
Okay.
So, yes.
And that entails practices and stuff. Those always
Mhm,
butt up the
so-
four worlds for us.
Yes. So during fall, which is when our girls' golf season is, we have practice every day for around 2 hours at our local golf club, our local golf course. So after school, we all run to the golf course, we change, and then we run out and play golf for 2 hours. And then after I'm done with that, then I run to Taekwondo and I teach and I do class and then I run home and I go to bed and then I do it all over again.
I think I was 19. I was picking a girl up for a date, and her mother asked me what I do. And I said it basically like you did, but I said I race here and race there.
Yeah.
Her dad come whipping out of the other room. Don't you be race excited Mustang. It was loud. Don't you race in my drag car? I'm like, it's a figure of speech. I don't literally drag race. Like, you don't literally run.
Exactly.
Just reminded me of that because they're like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I go to school, then I race here, then I leave this, I go to this. And exactly the same way you did it. Just kind of popped up that memory. I remember that using the term race. Don't you be racing with her. I didn't actually mean I race, which I probably was speeding going places, but I wasn't
That's probably accurate.
racing for it. And do you find that when you do have free time, how do you handle it? What do you do if you did have, because I know you probably don't have much, but if you did actually have free time, do you watch movies? Do you like to do stuff like Ben and Jocelyn? I love Legos. I like to have my hands busy. Even if I'm watching a movie, I like to be doing something as well. What's like a downtime enjoyment thing for you?
So in my downtime, I really try and do nothing. So I've tried to find a few hobbies, but I found that I don't really have time for those. So, maybe once a month, but that doesn't really count. So during my free time, I watch TV. I watch The Crown. It's a show on
What's that?
Netflix. It's about Queen Elizabeth and
Oh, cool.
stuff. It's pretty cool. I do that, and usually I end up doing homework, so I don't have to do it later.
See, I'll watch Suits and work on my speeches or
Yeah.
something I've got for work. It's
I have the
same
TV
thing.
going
Yep.
and my homework going.
Yep. I'll do that. I remember one night at the school I was watching a coaching call. I had something else going. I had a lot going. I had my laptop up doing something. I was watching a coaching call on my phone. I was typing, and then I had some writing going on or whatever. And Emily was looking down. She's like, ADHD much? Holy
Yeah.
crap. She's like, and I had 2 drinks because I wanted water because I was thirsty, but I had 10 energy drinks. I need caffeine. And that's like a whole thing. Like the ADHD side of TikTok has taught me so much about myself.
Really?
I quit sending the videos to Casey because she's like, would you stop? I know you're this annoying. Stop.
Yeah.
I just get a kick out of it. So I'm like, oh, that's me. Click. That's me too. Send. So not to plug the academy, but before we wrap up, I do want to talk about martial arts. I feel so, Sensei Thompson, there's a bunch of us have all discussed this that own businesses. We discussed this in Canada this year with different people over there. Tracy and I talked about this. We attribute a lot of our success and the way our brains work to martial arts. And I was breaking it down as far as with our katas, how every move has to be perfect. We go over and over it. It's about getting the perfect run. It may take, like your sword we discussed, what was that, 2 years ago? You started
Oh,
sword?
more than 2 years.
Well, when you started around the time before you went to work or went down the train with Caitlin. That
was
2
last year.
That was last year. Okay, so about 2 years ago then, we discussed a million runs and you'd start to get it. Most people don't do anything 10 times in a row to get better at it. They can't do it twice. They're like, forget this. I'm never going to be good at it. And so we've discussed that we feel that not only the discipline and the confidence that comes with the martial arts, that's more of a byproduct. It's the application that really helped us grow in business. Do you feel that has kind of helped with where you're at?
Absolutely. So in elementary school, I was the kid who never spoke. I don't think my teachers ever heard what my voice actually sounded like.
Stacy would be dying laughing right
I
now.
know, that's what that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. And then for the first few years of Taekwondo, I didn't really talk that much. I didn't really, do much. I went to Taekwondo. I didn't really talk to other people. I didn't find friends there. And then I kind of started to gain confidence in Taekwondo. I started to get better. So then I was more comfortable in the space. I was more comfortable talking to other people. I was more comfortable making friends, that kind of thing, teaching class. So it kind of just slowly built up. And then I really attribute a lot of where I am today to Taekwondo. Now I can, I've been teaching class for a few years now. Without that, I don't think I would have been able to make speeches in front of these business owners. Responsibility. I don't think I would have been able to, handle all this schoolwork if I hadn't learned what responsibility means in Taekwondo. Time management. I think I counted. I went out of town like 5 times in 2 months.
Yeah.
I've missed so much school. But it's because of time management, because of Taekwondo. I learned that I have to set aside and I have to make up my stuff and I have to practice. And then really just dedication. I've been doing Taekwondo for 7 years. I learned that I'm not going to do this for 2 years and be amazing at it. It's going to take some time and I'm not going to be as good as other people. And, that's all right. So that's kind of, 80% of what I've learned has just been like Taekwondo. It's crazy.
And I agree in my own self. Martial arts was a big deciding factor for me, even through the ups and the downs in the martial arts. And even though, it wasn't, I'm more direct with you guys on a lot of that stuff and pointing out how different things are going to affect you guys. Even if my instructors didn't go about it that way, their heart was there. And that directly attributed to so many things in my life. I might not have realized it at the time. Like I said, we discuss it, so I think you guys pick up on it more.
Yeah.
I still remember, and it's one of the reasons I still do this, and it's one of the reasons I'm working with the schools and the high school and the ninth grade center, and I want to pursue this speaking thing is I remember coming to you about competing and saying, hey, if I remember right, you had to do really good at the next tournament, and I would talk to them about getting you on Team Heartland.
Yes.
If I remember right, that was our agreement.
You told me that you were going to have Mr. Osborne come watch, and I had to do really good, and then he would decide from there.
He would decide about you being on Team Heartland because I saw the heart to compete in you, you and Trenton. We both did that. We did it for both of you guys. And seeing how you've developed as a young person is one of my biggest prides in martial arts. And so doing that, it makes me want to give that more and to watch for that more in my peers and classmates. And Dr. Penny and I discussed being at New Horizons and working with a young man and helping him get a internship at a local construction company, not only to hammer nails, but to do sales, because I saw that potential there. And I feel like that's something that I need to do more. And I tell people all the time, because friends of mine will ask what's up. I'm not telling you have to come to Boyer Academy. Find a martial arts school. There's a lot of great people out there that are preaching this too. It doesn't have to be kickboxing. It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. It doesn't have to be taekwondo. It doesn't have to be karate. Find a good disciplined school that's going to teach those things, not just teach them how to fight. Learning how to fight is absolutely like zero of it. I know fighters that
Exactly.
are great fighters and are complete losers as human beings, or, have never been able to succeed in life because they know how to fight, they know how to kick and punch, but that's it. Or they know how to wrestle, but that's it. It's finding a coach, whether it's a team, finding someone that's going to take that time to teach those lessons. There's a lot of football coaches out there who have some of the best content ever, whether their team's winning all the time or not. Like, you know me, I'm Deion Sanders all the way, man. Coach Prime, I love everything he says, whether they're winning or not, that attitude. But that affects people on such a longer trajectory other than just kicking and punching. I always thought the key to a super successful school was everybody being awesome. Change this, move that, everything you can do to dial every student in on that path, but that's not it. The other night I was talking to some parents at youth kickboxing, and they were telling me that their favorite thing at the school is you guys. That doesn't hurt my feelings. I know this. Is that their daughters have amazing young women to look up to. And she was talking about you, Riley, Bella, for a main example of these people, these young women that are going to be the future leaders and how they get to look up to them. And the one mom's like, it's great. You've got, Geraldine, you've got Edgar, you've got all these teens that are such good kids. And I kind of was telling them about all of Riley's achievements in school. I was like, you guys see me post a lot about Kendall's stuff because she tells me.
Riley's like crazy smart. She's insane.
At her graduation, I was floored. But she never told me any of it, Riley. She doesn't know it. She's going to be on here too. It's okay. I got to bring her on to talk. But that is so meaningful to the parents. Not that I'm just a good person, but to see you guys that have been there, they go, this is a good place to be. And this was talking with a judge, to say that you guys motivate her by being there. That's such a huge compliment to you guys and to what the school does and to our atmosphere in the school. It's not just who can kick and punch. And that's, as a martial arts instructor, I want everybody to compete at a high level. I want everybody to be great at what they do. But some people are going to put in the work like you and I do, and some people are not. Some people are just not going to take it that seriously. They're going to be good at where they're at. But if they can take those skills by seeing people like you and that direction, that's we're making a change in the world that way. And that's a really good feeling. What do you, before we wrap up, we got a couple minutes. What do you really see going on into college? And I'm not, you know me, I'm always pushing. I think you need to be an attorney, hands down. I've even tried to figure out how to help your dad pay for Harvard. Me and him can paint houses or something in the evenings, I guess. What are you thinking for school, like pursuing in school? I mean, you're junior, you've got plenty of time to decide, but
Yes.
where are you kind of leaning with that?
So ever since I was in like third grade, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be an architect. Oh my gosh, I want to be an architect. And then like last year, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be an architect. So from there, I was like, I kind of have to figure out what I want to major in college and what I want to do. So I joined DECA in. I always say this when I am about to say what I'm going to say, but I always say this is going to sound fake. But DECA really helped me realize that I kind of want to major in the business field. going to these meetings, going to these conferences, even like dressing like this, I'm like, I think this is fun. Like doing these, competing and doing these team decision making events or those projects, I'm like, this is like fun. Like figuring out these budgets and like ethics and with these businesses and stuff like that. So that kind of intrigues me. So I've thought about doing that, and obviously I want to go to college in Missouri, 4-year college. And then you also brought up, being some kind of lawyer or something like that. Um, which I don't know if that would be my first choice, but some days I'm like, oh, I want to be a lawyer, but then the next day it changes. So
Well, it's
it
good for
changes
you
all
to
the time.
look at it different things, but
Yeah.
you know what? You want to do something business related. You're a high functioning person, a lot of problem solving. Like you said, that's what you did at DECA. Like that's going to be key for you. There's a million different things you can do with that. You could, as long as you get the trajectory for school figured out, you can follow a couple different paths with that. Maybe you want to be an entrepreneur. Maybe something sparks you and you're like, you know what? I want to do that. I would love to have that business. Maybe you go to college and do that after college. There's a million other things out there for you. The key is you like the problem solving, you like the hustle, you like being busy. When I watch shows with attorneys and they're putting on suits or doing that stuff, I just melt. And then I go throw a hoodie on to go paint and I'm like, duh, wish I could, I love that part of it. I love the problem solving and the getting up in front of people. I love all that. That's why I've shifted to working on the coaching and helping other businesses problem solve. You got to find what's really going to do it for you to fill your cup and be successful at it. There's too many people out there going, no, do what you love. If you like to color pictures for a living, you're not going to go far.
Yes.
Like, unless you can turn that into a career or more of a thing. You can't, it's not all just find what you love and you'll learn how to make money at it. That's not always true. There are some fields that just
the realistic side.
Yes, that aren't that realistic. And there's, that's why there's people out there that help guide that. Hey, if you want to do this, maybe that's a stepping stone to something bigger.
Yes.
So that's great. Well, Matt, this has been absolutely awesome. And I'll say it again. I mean, to start off with you as a student, as a little kid, to have trained all of you guys just means so much to me. But now, like, when we first started our first competition as a team sync, that blew me away that night when the realism hit me that like we were competing as equals now, like together. That was pretty cool. That was definitely one of like the top thing in my martial arts career was doing that.
That was cool.
Now we're sitting here interviewing you on podcasts about your college, about your achievements at school. It's just so cool. And I again, 100 times over, so proud of you. So Lincoln County Podcast, thank you guys for watching us today. Listen to Kendall here talk about DECA and all the great things she's doing in the Lincoln County School District and in Lincoln County in general. And maybe she'll come back one day and revitalize our entire area. So hope you guys have a great day. Like, subscribe, follow, share it with your friends. And we look forward to bringing you a ton of content with a lot of great people right here in Lincoln County.